Week 4, tracking the pro stock market. Now last week I told you guys Cloud9, we're looking for the 2-0. We want something guaranteed, and I really thought that it was gonna go well until Cloud9 releases the head coach LS a few hours before their game on game day, and clearly they had a bad game against CLG, lost it, and actually ended up going 1-1. Who could have seen it coming? But that's why you love the LCS. You love to see that kind of thing happen. You just never know what you're gonna get on every single week. A coach might just get released and you might get a statement that doesn't tell you that much, but we're not here to talk about why that happened. We're here to talk about where to put your money. So just like every week, we're gonna go over the teams at the top, the teams at the bottom, give you guys a rundown of the matchups in between, and tell you where I think you'd be better suited to put your money. We're starting from the top. We've got Team Liquid and Flyquest. These two teams are looking really hot right now. I have more faith in Team Liquid going for a 2-0 this week because it seems to me like this was an expected result from this roster, while Flyquest, I don't know if it's midnight just yet. If midnight happens, will they turn back into a pumpkin and all of their glory will fail? Especially this week, they're going to be facing off against EG. They could lose that game despite EG looking shaky, and IMT, which for some reason has won some games, they're looking better, but the games they've won don't really feel so great despite having taken a loss to TSM, which should have been their game. The team is still shaky, but definitely good improvements here. Their strength of schedule is something to be discussed later. And then you were looking at the teams at the bottom, TSM and Dignitas. TSM stole a game off of IMT last week and lost to Cloud9 in a way that was disheartening, but at the same time, Cloud9 was losing that game, and I'm still putting a lot of that on the readjustment that the Cloud9 team was going through. Not only are they now mixing in language, but they've lost a head coach that spoke Korean and English, so there's going to be a lot of growing pains now for Cloud9. So the fact that they won that game against TSM on that week, really impressive for them, but TSM managed to sneak a win against IMT anyhow. Brutal game, but they got it, and they are in last place with your share. They have an okay strength of schedule. They could pull off a win, but I don't think that despite the low prices, this is a team you want to go in on. And then you've got Dignitas, middle of the pack team right now, but you're facing off against Team Liquid this week. I mean, what, you want to go 1 for 1? We want to go 2 for 0 this week. We're looking for the big bucks, so Dignitas is out of the question. With that being said, let's jump right on Dignitas against Cloud9 for the first match of the week. Cloud9 still shaky, but I think that pound for pound the players are better than what you have on Dignitas. So if they just play normal and Dignitas plays normal, Cloud9 should win most of those games. Dignitas has to perform above average, Cloud9 has to play worse, and so I still think that Cloud9 will be a better team than Dignitas here. Next up, Team Liquid against Golden Guardians. Team Liquid is not going to lose to anybody right now. If it's Flyquest, 100 Thieves, and Cloud9, maybe, but they really aren't going to lose to anybody. I think Team Liquid is way too solid. They are by far the most polished and consistent team right now. And finally, Core JJ has his green card. You can forget about betting against Team Liquid for now. Hey, their stock price reflects it. It's the only team above 2K. Next up, you've got TSM against 100 Thieves. If you love TSM and you love to go for your underdogs, this is why you're going to be betting on TSM. You're hoping that they'll upset 100 Thieves. I'm not counting on that. I saw how brutal TSM looks. I think they're right on par with CLG. So the old rivalry of the past has been rekindled at the bottom of the standings. TSM against CLG will happen at some point in the split, and that will be a battle for the ages. Absolutely. Not this week though. They're up against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves should easily have this one unless they are looking in terrible form, which is possible, but not likely. Next up, IMT against CLG. IMT stock is going up, CLG stock is going down. So I think IMT is looking a little bit better here. CLG managed to sneak a win against Cloud9 the day that LS got released, and it looked to me like they struggled so hard to win that game. They had to go through a backdoor strategy. It was good to realize that they had to pull off a win that way, but at the same time, sad to see that with the advantage that they had, they were not able to close out the game. And being able to close out a game is how you get wins. If you don't have that down, it is so unlikely for you to be able to take down teams that are even at the same level than you, let alone better than you. So the CLG upset potential against a team playing well or at their normal level on that day seems very low. So I do think that IMT will actually take down CLG here. So there is a chance that IMT actually can go 2-0 this week, which would mean that they would be probably the best bang for your buck right now. But we have to go into that a little bit later because they do play off tough against a top opponent later in the week. And then the last game of the day, EG against Flyquest. This one could go either way, but I think that Flyquest is looking really solid right now. Again, they could still fall back to old habits and perhaps lose this game, and EG could revive, but it looks like EG needs a lot of work. Losing to IMT was really disheartening for me, seeing that happening, considering that this team was the lock-in clear. I mean, they're the favorites. They're so favored in the lock-in tournament. Seeing them lose to IMT out of all teams right now was just not it. So I think that Flyquest will remain at the top, and this will hurt EG's chances of really solidifying this evil dynasty that they're talking about. Then we move on to day number 2, Sunday. Team Liquid against Dignitas. Need I say more? Obviously Team Liquid will come out ahead on this one. Then we move on to TSM against CLG. Look at that. I thought they'd play later in the week. I completely forgot they were playing this week right there. This is the old classic rivalry between these two teams, finding its way back into the bottom of the barrel. Listen, either of these teams could really win at this point. These are not very good teams, which means there will be throws, there will be late game scaling, and there will be jank. You do not want to be messing around with these. I think TSM will come up with a win because they've somehow managed to steal victories from Cloud9 before. So if they could steal it from, or rather from Immortals, but CLG also beat Cloud9. So I think TSM can win this, but it really is anybody's game. There's gonna be constant back and forth. So it just depends on the length of the game at this one and who picks the most scaling. And watch out for jinx. Watch out for these late game scaling picks, because whoever has those will probably end up winning, because the game is undoubtedly not going to be closed quickly. Then we move on to Cloud9 against 100 Thieves. Whew, this one's going to be close. This one could be very close. If Cloud9 play to the level that they were showing in weeks 2 and 1, this could be a really good game. But 100 Thieves, I think, is a little bit more refined right now. And because Cloud9's early game hasn't been so strong lately, just last week, they were losing the early and making comebacks. 100 Thieves' biggest weakness is the early game. If they get to the mid and the late game and they are able to play well from an advantage or from just even, I think this team usually performs. It was the loss against IMT where Uhi really threw by flashing in on set and diving when nobody was following up, where they lost a single fight in the game, but it was late game and the match was over. I think that bearing those few moments, this team should win mid to late game most of the time against most of these rosters. So because Cloud9 still struggles there, I'm giving the edge in this one to 100 Thieves. Then we move on to IMT against Flyquest. It could be the week for IMT. I mean, it really could be. If they can upset Flyquest here, I think the match they had earlier in the week against CLG should be a win for them too. So there's a good chance that IMT stock really rises through the roof. So if you got an appetite for risk and somehow you see that Flyquest underperforms in the first day of the week and IMT does really well, this could be the team to go all in for. So I'm telling you right now, if you love risk, I think you find IMT really interesting right now. We talked about it the last few weeks. You wait for the price to be just right, the matches to seem plausible, and then we buy in on IMT. This could be it. I would still hold off on it, but there is a chance that they do it, and it would be the highest payoff out of the rest of the bottom teams. So if you're looking for exponential growth to catch up to somebody in the leaderboards, IMT may be your team. Then we move on to Golden Guardians against EG. Wow. This match has a lot of G's in it, and I do think that EG should come out ahead, but Golden Guardians still is pretty exciting, and EG is just not living up to the hype. So I'm still going to be going with Evil Geniuses here, but do be careful with this one. It seems like a toss-up. These teams are quite close, and Golden Guardians is still higher in their money than EG, so I would be very careful with these two teams, and frankly, I wouldn't be putting money on either of them this week because of the volatility behind them. Where I would be investing is actually, once again, we're going to be buying a little bit high. I think the certain play here is Team Liquid. I mean, you're facing Dig and you're facing Golden Guardians. Really easy strength of schedule. You're not going to make a lot of money, but the profits are still going to be going up. So if you care about the long run, I think Team Liquid. If you're trying to make a little bit more money and maybe feeling like a little bit more risk, but perhaps there's too much risk for just a second place team in Flyquest, you could go with them because they do play EG and IMT. But if you have no faith in EG and IMT and have been loving what Flyquest has been doing, that's the team for you. And last but certainly not least, for all that risk, it's gonna be IMT for me. This is the time to buy these guys if you feel like it. The rest, I wouldn't touch. CLG, no thank you here. It's possible, but you just don't want to do that right now. You need to see like a whole split of CLG before you start betting in on this roster right now. There's really not going to be many strength of schedules that you're going to be thinking, yes, this is the week where they're going to win. It's just a toss-up. Same thing with TSM and Dignitas right now. So those are your picks for week 4. Let's hope that no one else's coach gets benched right before the games begin and throws a team off a tilt and makes the prediction game so much harder than it needs to be. Hope you enjoy this week, and I'll see you next time.